So I guess to start out, why don't you just start out by telling us who you are and what you do at StatLab?
All right, perfect. My name is Kamron Keyes. I am the Chief Operations Officer here at StatLab. Me and my team oversee the supply chain. So it's basically we make sure that every product is on the shelf right when the customer needs it at the highest quality and lowest cost. That's us in a nutshell, or at least me and what I do.
Awesome. And in follow up to that, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about StatLab, what you do, what's your mission, how did you get to McKinney, how many people do you have there? Kind of give us the whole corporate overview.
All right. Well, StatLab, we're essentially cancer diagnostics. We don't diagnose cancer, but our products are used. We have 5,000 finished goods, and they're used in what I tell people basically is we sell everything a pathologist needs to run their lab. And the pathology is mainly in cancer diagnostics, so that's where StatLab is mainly a cancer diagnostics company, because we supply all the products. So we do all the manufacturing here in McKinney, and we're mainly a lot of the chemicals. And the company name, like I said, StatLab Medical Products, but focused in cancer diagnostics. Started about 30 years ago in a field south of Dallas, just making these little microscope slides. I got one here, if you can see it. Just cutting out glass microscope slides. And then back then we had three people. One person was a salesperson, and then the two owners just cut glass all day, making these little microscope slides. And that sales guy would go to all the different pathology labs in the Dallas area, and he'd hop into a lab, and they would say, "Hey, could you guys source this product, or do you think you could do this product?" And so over 30 years, that has grown to almost 6,000 different products. It's pretty amazing. But so we went from 3 employees back then, 30 years ago, to about 200 nationwide right now. We have 100 here in our McKinney plant. We also have 2 other distribution centers, one out in Baltimore for our East Coast customers, and one out in Lodi, which is near Sacramento, for our West Coast customers. But all the manufacturing comes out of McKinney here. And let's see, I'm trying to run through your questions. We moved to McKinney about 13 years ago, and to be completely honest, the reason we moved 13 years ago, moved the company here, was it was family-owned business, and all the owners lived up here, lived in McKinney, all the family members. So they said, well, why not move to McKinney? So I guess our initial reason for coming to McKinney was it was just a great community. It was growing like crazy, and the family just loved it here. So they got us to McKinney. But I will say about 5 years ago, we had a chance to move out of McKinney. We had outgrown the old manufacturing plant, and so we wanted to build a new state-of-the-art manufacturing plant. And we looked everywhere. We looked in Frisco and Plano, Allen, Coppell, and ended up choosing McKinney once again. We just couldn't leave, and just because McKinney is such a great place. It's really a great place for a business as well. And what I mean by that is the city of McKinney was more of like a partner, and you guys still are. It's a partnership I assume you're like that with everybody, but you're particularly like that with StatLab. And what I mean by that is you guys, I've never had a city in all my 25 years that would come, that actually stayed in touch, stayed connected as much as McKinney does. You guys are in our facility at least once a quarter, but sometimes once a month, and just asking what you guys could do better, or what the city of McKinney can do better to help us. How the city of McKinney can improve, which is huge, and I think a big part of why we stayed in McKinney is the partnership. And it wasn't, in so many other cities I've had manufacturing plants in. It was more. The only time they visited is when they wanted to punish is the wrong word, but it kind of felt like that. Hey, we're worried you're not doing something right. Where McKinney has turned that around, and they're out here just asking how they can work better, how they can improve, and which is one of our core guiding principles is that continuous improvement. So that's why we stayed. I don't think you can get us out of McKinney now. You have to kick us out.
We don't want to go. That's for sure. I'll say too, we thank you for your kind words about everything, but partnership is a two-way street as well. We appreciate your flexibility and your accommodation of us, constantly checking in on you guys. Not all companies respond the way that you guys do. We really appreciate the responsiveness
No, my pleasure. It's a good partnership
that you've given us as well. So that's a two-way street, and we thank you just as much.
Yeah, it works well. It's working well, I have to admit.
So we love the fact that you guys have a history here, that you've been growing here, and that you're continuing to grow here. And we want to obviously help continue to support those operations. So tell us about this most recent acquisition that you're making. Who it is, and kind of what impact does that make on your operations and StatLab in general.
The most recent acquisition was a company by the name of BBC Biochemical out of Seattle, Washington, just north of Seattle. A great little company. It reminds me of StatLab 10 years ago. They just have that entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial spirit, and they're just innovative, and they have the drive, and it's really an incredible company. If I'm being honest, they were our biggest up and coming competitor, and we did not want to compete with them. They're that good, so we decided to partner with them as well, and we just acquired them. What it means as far as down the line, well, let me back up a second. So BBC, like I said, is a lot like StatLab, and they do same thing, cancer diagnostics, but they're in kind of a different market. We sell, StatLab sells directly into the pathology labs, which is the end consumer. And BBC sells more into distributorships. So we have a lot of competition that doesn't make anything, doesn't add any value other than getting the products into the hands of the labs. So they rely on this company, BBC, to do their manufacturing. And that's where it helps us. It's an extension of what we do. And it's really a great company, a very innovative, like I said, that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive. Oh my gosh, these guys, they're like a shot in the arm for us, adrenaline wise. They really are just hungry and just a really great company. So we're excited to have them on board. Some of the capabilities or some of the things that they give us that we didn't have is that market access, like I talked about, into distributorships. Excuse me. Also, they have some products that we weren't able to manufacture here because we just weren't capable. We didn't have the manufacturing machines. So by buying that company, we now have that capability. As far as long term, prior to COVID-19, the whole coronavirus, we were thinking, close them down, move the people here, move the manufacturing lines here, and run it all in McKinney. But after the last 4 weeks, we're starting to wonder if we shouldn't, for the sake of business continuity, keep them open. That way, if anything were to happen to this plant, we could just turn that plant on and start manufacturing out of there, or vice versa. So this whole pandemic has really made us maybe think through things differently, and this acquisition allows us, to do things like that.
Mm-hmm. So, looking at the acquisitions that you've made, the growth that you're experiencing, the coverage you have across the country, what's the future of StatLab look like? If you could forecast out 20 years StatLab in the future, where do you guys want to be? What does StatLab look like in the future?
Wow. Okay. $1 billion big, baby. It's it's hard to predict the future, but we spend a lot of time on our people. We really believe in people. We have a whole development program, and I guarantee with the right people, you can grow as big as you want to. So growth obviously is the name of the game. This recent acquisition is our 5th acquisition in the last 10 years. So that's really what I think will happen is we're just going to continue to grow the market and and most likely mature the market. Because there are some other players that are really good. They do the same thing we do, and they're really good in their areas, like in Florida, or in their markets in Florida, in the Northeast, even in Kansas. So I suspect we'll be acquiring more companies, rolling them in here, keeping the distribution alive, and it's kind of exciting because of technology. You can really work, and I guess we've seen that in this pandemic. You can really largely work from anywhere. So as we've acquired these companies, we've been able to keep customer service in those areas, and because that's the customer facing component, is that customer service rep. And a lot of times there's a lot of intimacy there between the customer service rep and the customer. So we try and keep those customer service reps in those territories that came with the acquisition. But by and large, we just folded in here, and we grow this company here. Just in the last 7 years that I've been here, I think, let's see, we were 35 employees in this plant. Now we're nearly 100, and with each acquisition, it's gonna grow even further. So, and McKinney gives us those options. We have the new warehouse space right up the street. So if we want to move the warehouse out to, we can have that option. We even own the land, another 30,000 square feet of land next to us where we can build out, add to our manufacturing. There's just so many things we can do here in McKinney because it's still growing. There's still room for growth. So pretty excited.
We want to help you with it all.
Yeah, you will. You will. Careful what you ask for.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit about what's going on with the COVID-19 situation right now. What has been the StatLab reaction to the COVID-19 response? Have you guys had any specific impacts to your business? Or have you had any specific things that, given the nature of what you do and what the company does, is there anything that you guys are specifically working on in response to that, or what's going on? How is that affecting your business?
Well, great question. About 2 weeks ago, we acquired BBC, and literally the morning, the morning we acquired BBC, we did a big virtual welcome to StatLab meeting. And that afternoon, the management team over there got together with the management here in McKinney, and we asked that very question. All right, how can we be on the front lines? And we ramped up our gloves, so we have a huge glove supply, and face shields, the N95 masks. We're pushing those out where we can to end users and donating. But the biggest thing we did is we were perfectly poised. We'd never sold sanitizer in our lives, not StatLab, not BBC, never been in sanitizer production. So one of the members of the executive team said, "Hey, we're a chemical manufacturing company. Why can't we make sanitizer?" And that's exactly what we did. So literally the day we acquired the company, there was a huge synergy between the two of us, between StatLab and BBC, because BBC had the production capability to make sanitizer, but they couldn't get the alcohol. Well, we had all the alcohol, we just didn't have the capability. So we pushed or pulled really all that manufacturing of their standard products up there at BBC. We just moved those here to StatLab and turned that entire plant into a sanitizer production plant. So within less than 2 weeks, we were pumping 5,000 gallons a day out of that production facility. And it was so much more than, it sounds easy when I say it like that, but it was, you can't just start making sanitizer. You have to get FDA approval. You really have to make sure you have your ducks in a row. You have to use the right recipe, the FDA approved recipe. So we got all our ducks in a row while we were sourcing hundreds of thousands of gallons of alcohol, and it all just came together. Literally, we're pumping 5,000 gallons a day out of that manufacturing plant of sanitizer. And we're having inquiries from state of California, McDonald's, you name it, and we're pushing it out to as many companies. The demand way outweighs what we can produce, but at the end of the day, we feel like, all right, we've really jumped in and they're starting to make a difference, which is important. We also created this Do the Right Thing team. because we didn't want just the 600-pound gorilla to get all of our sanitizer. We wanted to make sure that it was spreading across our own existing customers, but also we were donating 10%. So we donate 10% of our, so it's like 500 gallons a day to the communities, whoever needs it. So, and we push that out to employees too, which is kind of neat. We ask them, if their church group, if whatever they're involved in needs sanitizer, let us know, and we'll get them in the queue. So we don't sell it. We're giving that away. We're donating it to those companies. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to be able to say we did that.
So is this something that you see could be a long-term future-proofing product?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
The only reason we were able to do it right now is because the FDA relaxed the guidelines just a little bit. But we do want to do it long term, which means we need to increase our checks and balances on the way we manufacture things to make sure we meet that higher level of FDA approval once they release the relaxed regulations. Once they go back to being more stringent. And we just have to make sure we can meet those. But yeah, who knew sanitizer? Although in hindsight, it makes perfect sense. We wonder why the heck were we making sanitizer before?
So great. Well, I mean, StatLab seems to be the full picture, man. You guys are nailing it in all heads. You're growing, you're helping, you're doing what's good for the community, and we certainly appreciate you having your headquarters in McKinney, and I appreciate the time today. And I just hope that we can continue to be part of your growth here in the future, and that you guys will let us know whenever you need anything. We appreciate everything you're doing for the community right now.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, whatever we could do. If there's anything more we can do, we'd love it. I know we had the Young Presidents Organization out here for tours. We love to do all, whatever we can. So don't hesitate to ask, I guess what I'm getting to. Because the involvement does a lot to keep our employees engaged. And so we like to do our part wherever we can.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to us a little bit and tell us about what you're doing and the impact it's making. Really appreciate it.
Nope. My pleasure. Good seeing you again.